Okay, are we live again, but it's me this time? Is it working? Okay. So, somebody please tell me if it's working. Um so we are now I'm going to like read questions off my phone here and then I am going to answer questions. So, here we go. Ah, there we go. Okay. So spoilers, I have okay, so I did spoilers, I did the spoiler warning. There are indeed going to be spoilers for up to and including one night in Monaco. So beyond that, of course, nobody else has read it but me. So and Angie. So I will be not spoiling those. Okay. So, okay, we are going to start. I'm going to start with the questions that are actually on the Ask Blair Anything thread. I will go back to the other, it's going to be tomorrow thread if we have time, okay? So put your questions on the Ask Blair Anything thread, and I'm going to be reading them off my phone here and then telling you the answers. Okay, first question is Joe Evans asks Max, is he as much of a bad boy as each of his friends? Oh no, he's the worst of all of them. I It's the ones who try to reform and can't who are always the worst. Christina Emery asks question time. Yes. Kay Davis says, once Max's series is complete, what next? Okay. Well, I have several ideas for what's next, and I'm not making any commitments because I want to go with what the one that like lights my fantasy as I see it. Um, One of the possibilities is rogue security and writing some rogue security books. Another possibility, you're going to read the first of, I hope, starting in October. So Simone, who was the female lead in One Night in Monaco, the woman from Mauritius, she gets the rest of her story in October. I was asked to be in an anthology, and by Renita McKinney, who is just a doll. I just love that woman. And she asked me to be in an anthology, and I'm trying to remember the name of it. I almost had it. Love and Color, I think. And so Simone gets the rest of her story there. And it's the first of what I hope will be a series of maybe shorter novels, maybe standalones, that are the most eligible lords list. And I came up with the idea while I was talking to Julia Kent because she's wonderful and she like is magic and she sparks ideas. So I was just being funny and silly, and the idea was, what if some scandal magazine, scandal rag in London, um, came up with one of the reporters slept with the 10 most eligible lords and wrote an expose about them. Like, not only like, are they well dressed? How rich are they? But everything. So she ends up with the most likely to remain on the list, and that is it's a fun story that is going to be in that anthology, and I think it's coming out in October. It kind of depends on how everything works, but it's already submitted, it's already out there, and so it should come out in October, and then you can see the rest of Simone's story. And then I'm thinking about doing the other 9 lords on the most eligible lords of London list. So next one is Giselle Colette Pozark. Hi. And in Cash and Arthur's books, Max was going to become a priest. I didn't get that vibe in his own book. Not yet. Is that still the plan, or do we have to wait to find out? You totally have to wait to find out. That's a spoiler for the rest of the series. Christina Emery asks, do you identify with any of your characters? If so, who? That's an excellent question. That will actually, I will put down the phone because that is an excellent question. So Marge Piercy, who's one of my favorite writers, wrote a book on writing, and I've forgotten the name of the book, but if you're a writer, you can look for Marge Piercy and on Amazon, and she just put out a updated version of it, and she's really nice. I have talked to her a couple of times over Facebook and fangirled at her, but she is really a nice person, and her writing book was excellent. Some writing books are good, some writing books are really good, and hers are good. Her writing book is good. Um, but so in there, she talks about how every character that you write, every full-fledged major character anyway, you make them, you sew them together out of rags and everything you have around your house, and then to bring them alive, you give to life, you give them the blood sacrifice. You give them a piece of your soul. So which one of my characters do I most identify with? All of them have a piece of my soul. All the major ones have a piece of my soul in there. I think the most obvious one is Zan Valentine. Zan is okay. So I don't actually have multiple personality disorder, but Zan himself is a metaphor for writing and how I view writing. I was an actor when I was a kid. I should pull this down just a little bit to frame myself a little bit better. There we go. See? I was an actor. I think about camera shots, even though I can't actually see the computer because I'm that nearsighted. So I was an actor as a kid. When I write, I use straight method acting and I get into character. I've written about this more on my blog, and the feeling of multiple personalities and being able to watch the way I described it for Zan, being able to watch while the other personality is doing something and know it and influence it and describe it is what writing feels like. It's an extended metaphor for writing. And those books took a lot out of me. There's a reason why I needed a little bit of time afterwards to regroup, because those books, so far when I look back, I love all my books. There are some books that are just working stiff, and the two Arthur books are just really, really good, and I'm really proud of them. The Zan books were where I feel like I stepped up another level. Other characters, of course, Ray Stone. Ray and Wolf were the very first romance novel that I wrote, and when I was still feeling my way through and researching like what should be in there, what shouldn't, and I did some things wrong, but I think they actually worked really well. But Ray is a lot of my background. My background wasn't quite as crazy as hers. I grew up in Phoenix, which is a large metropolitan city, one of the 10 largest cities in the U.S. Not the outback of Pirtleville, which is a code name for Douglas. Pirtleville is actually an unincorporated area near Douglas, Arizona. And Douglas is where my dad is from, and the culture there influenced me a lot. My grandparents from Douglas influenced me a lot. When I went and stayed with them during the summer sometimes, I went to their church, which was an extremely repressive Baptist Calvinist church. I've talked to my cousins, and the cousins who have gone on and been more active in religion have changed religion very much, who were in that church. I also had some cousins who were Catholic, and they're normal. But other cousins I've talked to growing up in that church, they said they never remembered anyone ever saying anything like God is love. It was God is the one who will punish you. And it was breathe regularly in this veil of tears until you die. And it was not a joyous church. And so I gave that to Ray, and that was a very large piece of my soul. Growing up with that major influence and then breaking away and being able to break away was a large part of it. So those are the two characters which are the most. And I mean, everything has, all of my characters, like I said, have a little bit. Wolf, I used to have, it's not quite as much anymore, but an eidetic memory, especially for things I'd read. I have to be careful when I'm writing that I'm not quoting paragraphs at a time from other books, because for things that I've read, sometimes, especially if they really influence me, I can write almost verbatim, so I have to be very, very careful I don't do that. And I am very, very careful I don't do that. If the words come too easily, I stop and think, where is this coming from? So, and then I erase up until there. And I don't do it as much anymore, you hit a certain point, and I think I'm a little more normal now, and it's kind of nice. Lizzie, her gymnastics background was a metaphor for acting, for my child acting background. And again, like I said, I've discussed being a child actor on my blog. Just all of them have a piece of me. But that's probably way more than you wanted to know. So, Christina Emery, you realize we won't let you stop after Max is done. Yes. Giselle Colette Pozar. The book format was fun with everyone's point of view. One Night in Monaco. So glad you enjoyed it. Are you doing that with the next books? I'm Max and Dree, who is the female main character in the next books, about 50-50. Love the audiobook with all the voices. I know, wasn't it cool? I could listen to John Rain read me the telephone book. Him and Joe Arden, and Shane East is also awesome. Yes, me too. So, Karen Dobb, am reading this book now. Oops, sorry, spoilers. How long before the next one comes out? Rogue, which is the official first book. One Night in Monaco is considered the prequel. The official first book will be out on October 22nd. And it's that way so I can simultaneously drop the audiobook too. Christina Emery then asks, are you sure there's no way we can convince you to release the rest of the book sooner? No, I really want to do, I'm really trying the audiobooks at the same time. And so I'm going to try really, really hard to keep the audiobook releasing with the ebook. And I have to give the narrators time. They need to speak and then do the editing and do all those nifty things. And I think it's really exciting when a book is published with the audiobook. So I'm going to try to do that. Come back. I am back. Cecilia Johnson Weary, how did you come up with the titles for the Iron Fury motorcycle books? That's my friend Olivia Rigel. I'm sure that she can answer that question for you. She's in this group. I can tell her that you're asked. Christina Emery then asks, aren't there any characters mentioned in your series that will be spun off besides Simone? Very possibly. I tend to mine my own books for new and interesting characters, which I probably shouldn't do as much because, like I think I mentioned at some point, I'm going to have more bloodlines crossing than the Plantagenets if I don't stop that. Christina Emery then asked, when were you in Monaco? You took much prettier pictures than I did. Most of those pictures were from my husband and kid because I am not that good a photographer. I took a lot of pictures and used maybe 3 of them. Like all the rest of them were from my husband and kid's phone. I was in Monaco last June 2019. And then Christina Emery asked, one day can we get a timeline of dates or an order of major events? Yes. I can probably do that because there is a timeline. It is in the computer files, and it was very kindly put together by group member Michelle, and I can probably find it and clean it up. I need to finish Order first. Order is the name of the second book. And, oops, okay. And so it's very possible that I can put something like that together as a download for the group and maybe for the mailing list. So, okay, now we are going to go back. Okay. So now we are looking at other places for questions. Let me see. Update. Okay. So I'm going to go look now and see if there was anything on that other post. I think that's me right there. Good Lord, I look awful. Here is the, no, this is the other one. Okay. There was that. Here's the other one. Okay. So, okay. Some more questions. Samantha Keller asks, you mentioned earlier this year that you experienced burnout from writing novel after novel. How did you overcome the burnout to give us such an awesome one night in Monaco? Okay, two things. First of all, I took a class from Becca Syme, who writes cozy mysteries, but she also works with authors because she is a life coach who works with the Clifton Strengths Finders uh, method of counseling and life coaching. And she is marvelous. If you're an author, you need to go take the classes from her. I highly recommend them. The strengths class and the write better faster. And she actually got me through like the last couple of books, and then I worked on like getting myself back together. The other thing is that again, my dear friend Julia Kent, like saw that I was really floundering and reached down into the pit and pulled me out. And she was like, okay, you're not happy unless you're writing. And I said, yes. And she said, but you're not writing. And I said, yes. And she says, what's it going to take to get you to write? And so she coached me through it. We sat down, she said, okay, what are you going to do today? How can you do it? And, she was the one who came up with the idea of like, you need to make one of the unused rooms in your house into an office because we have some guest bedrooms, which nobody's guesting these days. So I turned a guest bedroom into, and this is like my little office now. And that helped. And her sitting with me over the computer and just saying, what are you going to write today? How's it going to work? How are you going to do it? She dragged me through it. She is a saint. She's an angel on earth. And you would not have these books without her. Okay. And then Samantha continues to say she works with newer writers. They quickly experience writer's block. So glaringly obvious. What advice do you recommend for overcoming writer's block? It wasn't a true writer's block because it was burnout. What I would suggest first of all is going over to YouTube and watching Becca Syme's videos on writer's block and burnout and how they are two separate things, sort of. You can have both, or you can have one as a symptom of the other. It depends on what the writer's block is and why. And I didn't really have a true writer's block because Becca's come out with some more stuff on writer's block, including a book, excellent book. And I didn't have true writer's block. I had burnout, and I took some time. I did some stuff, and then I had some problems getting back, and Julia helped me get over that. So, do you get anxiety the day before release day? Samantha Keller asks. Sometimes I actually go downhill a little bit after release day, just because I do so much for the release. So many things have to be done, and there's the writing, which I love, and there's the business of publishing, which I tolerate. And the business of publishing takes a lot out of me. So I after release, like right about now, I am glad to be in the group and just having a lovely day right now. The last week with getting all of the promo and everything done and doing all the things has been rough on me. If I had time, I would probably take a week right now off and just read other people's books and relax and have time with my family. But because of where I booked narrator time, I need to get those books to the narrator. So I'll be back in the saddle this afternoon writing. I will finish order probably this afternoon, I'm hoping. and then edit it tomorrow and Tuesday, and then it goes to the next editor. And then Dawn Yacovetta, did I say that right? Was I close? Dawn Yacovetta asked, how do you do your research? You always seem to know so much about your subject matter, the royal relationships, what the inside of castles and such look like, BDSM, and what the other clubs are like, and the way people talk to each other. I do a lot of research for my books. I like that in other people's books. When I read another person's book, I like it if, not like if I learn something, but where the details feel real and fully imagined and fully researched. May I highly recommend Hot Pickle by J.J. Knight, who is Deanna Roy, which you'll see some giveaways in this group. The first couple of scenes, I'm about halfway through the book, but the first couple of scenes where she talks about bodybuilding, and it is obvious that she has researched that stuff and that everything in there is perfect. And I highly recommend that book if you like that. Other than that, I mean, I like reading. I've been a reader all my life, and I learned to read when I was 2. And so I've just been sucking in knowledge. And again, if you do Becca Sign, number 4 input. I think no, 5 input. If I'm number 1, analytical, number 2, achiever, number 3, intellection, number 4, learner, number 5, input. So if you've done the StrengthsFinder stuff, you've just learned a whole lot about me and went, but I thoroughly enjoy learning about subjects and then incorporating those into the books. And for me, a book like that feels more real. And so I like to read it and I like to write it that way. I go on the internet. The BDSM stuff is all internet research, and that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. But other than that, it's all like, it's books, it's research. I went to Monaco for this one. I can tell you what the air smells like. I've been a lot of the other places, like Southern Arizona. I know exactly what that was like. I've been to England. I've been to France a couple of times. So I remember what those were like and can incorporate those. Castles, I've always had a thing about castles. And so I've been to a lot of the castles. Been to Germany. And so I do my best to do the best research that I can or pull from my memory also. And then Christina Emery, have you ever had a key detail that you had planned and then read it in someone else's book? Yeah. Okay. I would joke about that. I've met Sierra Simone. She's a lovely human being. She's perky. She is adorable. I just love her. But I had already planned Maxence and to want to be a Jesuit, and then she came out with priest, and I about fell over. I was like, no! And I read her book, and it was good. It's just one of the hottest books. Ooh, wow. My book is very different. I mean, it's a long series. There's obviously the royal component. There's the romantic suspense, the intrigue. Hers centers around entirely just the conflict with being a priest, and he wants to have sex with a woman anyway. So they're very different. But when I had wanted to name the first or second book Priest, and I was like, no. But so I named the second one Order, as in the Jesuit order. Okay, so now let's see if there's any more questions. Because it's only 1 o'clock. Wow, answering them this way is so much faster, and like my hands don't hurt. This is good. Okay. So if there's any other questions, so here, hi Kay. Let me see. Love the pic, love the background. Yay! Thank you, everybody. When will the other books? Okay, so Sky Wolf asks when will the other books for Max be released? I'm planning on about every 2 months. So October, December, February, hopefully, and probably. So, and then, let me see. So, and Karen Daub asked the same thing. So good. I'm glad you guys are anticipating Max. I'm glad that you like it and that you want to read more. That never upsets me. I mean, I know a lot of other writers. Be careful with them. I mean, writers are just delicate little flowers. We all are. So be careful with asking other writers, like, when's X going to be out? Because it can make them feel pressured. I do not feel that. I am totally good. You can ask me when stuff is coming out, because I thoroughly enjoy it, and if anything, it encourages me to keep going, to go faster. And I mean, I joke that, like, I see a good review and then I write 5,000 words that day. So reviews, add my book to your shelves on Goodreads, enter my contests, and write nice reviews about my books and places, and tell me how wonderful I am. And it makes me write faster, and it actually really does. It just, number 2 achiever, just like tell me all the good things and like pat my head, and I write faster. So, but other writers, be careful about that, because it can upset them, and it can like set them back in their author journey. So, but me, you can ask me anytime when the next books are coming out. I'm good. Okay. And then I think writers and readers see it as a movie. I do. I when I read a book, it just all takes place in my head. I love, Heidi Bell says, I love Ray and Wolf. I do too. They still are like a special place in my heart. And like I said, Ray, I identify with very much. So, yep, I absolutely love them too. Thank you. And I'm so glad you do. Also, Kay Davis thinks too. Lori Thomas Maloney says, I heart Arthur, but I think Max is going to kick Cass out of second place. Well, you don't have to rank them. You can just love them. And by the way, if you want a little bit more Max and Casimir and Arthur, I'm going to have a newsletter coming out this week. Quickies, which is perhaps the dirtiest thing I've ever written, is finally up on Amazon and Audible. So you probably have an Audible credit coming available in a few weeks, the first of the month. May I highly recommend Quickies, which is, like I said, the dirtiest thing I've ever written, and it's the guys with a threesome and rocks, and it's dirty. It's so dirty, and you will learn more about Max by the way the guys react to him. Okay. And then Yvette Grimes says, love knowing this. I know it was fun. And James McCurdy says, I miss you. And Jane, I miss you too. And I'm hoping we can like set things up on the deck, and maybe as it gets cooler, maybe we can like hang out and like have some nice socially distanced cocktails. Okay. And then Kay Davis says, reading your books, it's easy to see, feel how much of your blood, sweat, and tears have gone into them. Thank you, because they do. I'm glad. Over the years, I picked up on the links between you and Ray and Xantu. Yeah, they're there. If you know them, they're there. And Lori Thomas Maloney says, best of all, I heart your books. Keep going. Thank you. And Deanna Roy says, who would win arm wrestling? Cass, Arthur, or Max? Ooh. Which of the 3 runaway billionaires would win at arm wrestling? I'm going to have to go with Max. Because, as you will find out, Max has Kaz and Arthur. I mean, they go to the gym, they lift. You know, they do lift bro. But Max actually uses his muscles. His muscles were not built in a gym to be pretty. They are functional muscles. And he would probably, because he has built those muscles by like, number 1, analytical, by like picking things up and moving things and digging things and building things, he probably, when you work out in the gym, like you work the little part of the muscle in the middle, and even if you do free weights, you know, you're supposed to like twist and bend and do the free weights, but when you actually build them by working to do something, they're stronger because you build the whole muscle and all the muscle fibers. So probably Max. Okay. Any more plans for more books from Angel of Death? Asks Yvette Grimes. That's probably pretty low on the list. I can always get a brain bug and decide I need to write it, but it's probably pretty low on the list because I have all these other ideas for romance, and I really, really like writing romance, and I love romance readers. I'm going to say it again. Romance readers saved me as an author because, like, when I was writing literary stuff, it was harsh, and romance readers love books, and I love books, and I have found my community, and I love writing romance. So maybe someday if I can learn to write faster, if I can write 10 books a year. So you heard me, Julia. If I want to write 10 books a year, maybe she'll crack the whip. If I could write 10 books a year, I could write more Angel of Death. But until I can get that kind of speed, I want to concentrate on the romance because I have so many ideas for things I want to write in romance. Okay. Christina Emery says, I've already pre-ordered Rogue. Thank you. I really appreciate that. When I see pre-orders, it makes me write faster, but also I gauge how much interest there is in a series by pre-orders and first week sales. If I don't see a lot of pre-orders and first week sales, then I think my readers whom I have found in the past and who have found me aren't interested in this so much. So maybe I should do 3 books instead of 4. Or maybe I should cut it off early. Maybe I should take it in a different direction. So if you like my books, pre-order or buy them the first week because that's what I gauge interest with. Lois Maisel Cooperstein says, I really miss the Dragon's Den series. They were fun, huh? I grew up reading a lot of science fiction, and I love science fiction and fantasy. And I read the Lois and Bastard Bujold series. I read Marion Zimmer Bradley. I read Dragon Riders of Pern, Anne McCaffrey. I loved the Dragon Riders and Pern series. They were just, I cannot count how many times I read that series. So therefore, yeah, I already had dragons and shapeshifters because I love PNR. I read a lot of PNR. I read Millie Titan. I read Celia Kyle. But I already had a lot of it in my head. And I thoroughly enjoyed writing the Dragon's Den series. I probably won't write any more of them soon, again, just because if I could write 10 books a year, I could write more fun ones. And in that, I envy Julia Kent very much because when she has a clean slate, when her decks are cleared, she can do 10 a year. And there are other people who can do it too. Lauren Blakely, I think. There's a couple who just they can do it, which means they can not only write the most important books, but they can write other books that feed their souls. And they are wonderful. And I am doing more dictation. I am trying to teach myself to speed up because I like writing books. I like dropping books. I like publishing books. I enjoy everything about them, and I wish I could make more of them because the world always needs more books, right? Okay. Giselle Colette Pozark says, love all 3. Can't wait for the quickies. Quickies available right now everywhere there are audiobooks. iTunes, Amazon, Audible, Hoopla, all the find-a-way places. It is Kobo. It is published wide. It is all over. That's why it took so long to get up on Amazon. But highly, highly recommended. I mean, the first book, which was was an anthology like this, was just awesome. It was great. And so I was so excited to be included in the second one. And Quickies is just truly filthy. I think Filthy is the name of the first one. Amazingly filthy. And I highly recommend that wherever you get your audiobooks, go listen to this. Okay. And then Christina Emery asks, what does your family, husband, son think of your books, or is it just avoided? Yeah, just avoided. My husband is not a big reader, so he's never read any of my books, and that's fine. I am totally fine with that. It is freeing. My son is 16. God, I hope he's not reading my books. He will get a terribly wrong impression of what you're supposed to do on a first date as a teenager. Um, but I don't think he's reading my books. Because I hear him gaming so much. Fortnite, Minecraft. Yeah, he runs a Minecraft server. He's so happy. He's so cute. Um, but it's just they know what I do. I sometimes talk to them about things like we have to go to Monaco so I can find Sam Valentine's house, and they're like, okay, let's go to Monaco. But they they're not actively involved in the writing other than when mommy goes in the little room or before sits in the chair or sits at the table. If you interrupt her, she will have this blank expression on her face for like the first several minutes that you talk to her, and then you're going to need to repeat that. Okay. Let me see. Christina Emery says, you've said before Blair Babylon isn't your real name, I think. How did you come up with it? It was just silly. I wanted it was over. So there was a group of writers like early in the days of indie publishing over on a place called Kboards, which if you're a writer, don't go there now. It became a scary cesspool, and then it was bought by somebody else who thinks that they can take whatever you have posted on there and use it as their own. So if you're a writer, don't go there. There's lots of other places to go. But back in the heyday, it was lovely, and it was a great place. And so I was I had published a couple of literary books. Don't go look for them. They are juvenilia. They are not what I think and feel now. And so I was saying, maybe I'll write something else. And so anyway, during the big the first big economic collapse, like 15 years or so ago, the publishing house that I was publishing the literary books with collapsed, just gone. Like I didn't get my last royalties or anything. And so I was hanging out with science fiction writers because those who know me, I also have a PhD in microbiology and did my postdoc work in neuroscience. I'm weird. So I have hung out with a lot of science fiction writers like Joe Haldeman and Elizabeth Moon, and I still do. There's still some science fiction groups that I'm like still in and hang out with, because when science fiction writers like need somebody to bounce science ideas off of, I'm both a writer, so I understand what you need for writing, and also like I can tell them the real science so that they don't make huge mistakes like, hey, and then the human and the alien had sex and had a half human, half alien baby. No, they didn't. No, they didn't. Because probably even like the RNA is wrong. And I mean, just no, they didn't. Even if panspermia like is the hypothesis is right, no, they didn't. So I can help talk them through it. So me and Alina Georgi are like in a couple of different groups. She's a science fiction writer who is a professor of biochem. So we keep the science fiction writers on the straight and narrow. Anyway, when my literary house collapsed, I was over on sff.net, which is now defunct and gone. But I was in Joe Haldeman's group, I was in Elizabeth Moon's group, I was in a general group, and I was like, so I don't want to write another spec book. I had an agent, I had a publishing house, they were buying my next book, and I don't want to write another speculative book to where like I can shop around and maybe it'll get published and maybe it won't. I'm sad. And so Elizabeth Moon said, have you looked at this self-publishing thing? And I was like, no, surely not. And they were like, you should take a look. If you don't want to write a spec book, take a look. What's it going to hurt to take a look? So I found Kboards, and I found Hugh Howey, and I found all the people who were like in the beginning, whose names are going to escape me right now because I'm under pressure and staring at a camera. But the people who first got into this were all over on Kboards. And I saw that they were reaching readers. They were making a living, they were reaching readers, and they were writing whatever they wanted. And I thought, this is something I want to do. I'll want to try it. I'll come up with a pen name. So I thought, first of all, when I'm in anthologies, do I want to be near the top of the masthead or at the bottom of the masthead? So let's not call myself Zelda Zulu. So I called myself Blair Babylon because it's got B's, so I'll be like near the top of the masthead. Babylon sounds vaguely naughty. So, but it's a place name, so people can spell it. There's some things I can do with like Babylonians and stuff like that, and it amused me. Blair was just like a name that was short, and because when I name characters, a lot of the times you want to have a different number of syllables in the first and last name. If I had to do it now, I would actually do it a little bit differently. I'd do a longer first name and a shorter last name. But it's like Julia Kent. She did it perfectly. But it was just something I came up with as a lark because I was just going to try it. And I tried it with Ray and Wolf. And people liked it. And thus I kept on. So here I am. And I'm just having a great time. And then Lois Maisel Cooperstein says, especially now that made me laugh. I'm not sure. Amelia T. Smith says, I am loving this. Which of your genre series is the most difficult to write? Ooh, that's a good question, Amelia T. Smith. Which of them is the most difficult to write? Okay. So some of you know that I branched off into cozy mysteries as just a little side thing. And those were very difficult for me to write because they were very different. And in the last one, you can actually see there's the beginning of a love interest just because I discovered I really, really like writing romance. And when I wrote those, I was much less happy. And it contributed to burnout. And because I was writing something that I was not thoroughly happy with. And so that's one of the reasons why I am sticking more to romance. I probably will actually write a few more of the golf mysteries. Probably one in 2021 because I did the last ones in 2019. So I'll probably do something short in 2021 just because there's some other financial reasons to do so, to keep a second pen name going. But that was really difficult for me to write because it was a whole new genre, I figured with being number one analytical that I would be like really good at it because, it's like making a puzzle and then showing the pieces. But it was just very different. And I really enjoy the very character-driven structure of romance because it's romance and literary are the only two genres that are truly, truly character-driven. The others have much more plot-driven, and I really, really like delving deeply into the characters as a method actor and exploring them from the inside out. So that's why the cozy mysteries were harder for me to write. The Dragon's Den I just blew through and they were fun. And it's just, it gave me the opportunity to delve into all this S and F, S, F, and F that's been in my head for years and years. So I enjoyed those. Other than that, which are the hardest to write? Zan Valentine, just because it was so complex and had such deep characterization. It was difficult to write, but when I was writing Nothing Else Matters and sailing through to the end, it was like I had a wind behind me, and it was just, it was almost blissful. It was so wonderful. That series is still probably my favorite to write. What's harder to write? Angel of Death was just because some of the technical details, I live in the Northeast now, so I don't hang around gun culture quite as much. So I had to do some more research on that to make sure I got the nitpicky details right. That's probably about it. But probably beyond that isn't one that was. There's nothing that I hate writing. Writing is always better than not writing. So okay. Oops. Heidi Bell asks, are the quickies in Kindle books or just audio? Right now they are just in audio. I was I have it as, of course, written, because otherwise, what would the narrators read from? I was gonna publish it, but then finally Amazon and Audible released it, because it sat for like 4 months. I feel so bad for Tanya Evie, because like they messed her up. So they sat on it for 4 months. I was gonna release it as an ebook and an audiobook, but since now it's at Amazon and Audible, I'm asking you to go get it from her, because like, and to get the audiobook. Probably in 3 or 4 months, I'll release it as an ebook. And that will probably be just like fan service to my mailing list and in here. So make sure you stay in here. Make sure you read my emails and my newsletters, because that's where you will get it. I'll probably do that first. I don't know. I might. No. See, okay. There's strategic reasons for publishing. So if you go just to the mailing list, you go just to the mailing list. So I probably will just have it for people on the mailing list and people in here. Okay. And Ira Simpson says, sorry I got on late, but I enjoy books. It's hard to get away. Oh, I totally understand. Okay. Gail Robinson says that she loved One Night in Monaco. Thank you. And am listening to the audio. Can't wait for the rest. Will there be appearances in the rest of Max's books like Flicka, Wolf, Zan, and Georgie? Oh, you know there will be. I cross-pollinate so much. Zan's going to have to be in there, because if you read Flicka's books, spoilers for Flicka's books, Pierre dies. So the next person in line for the throne is Max. And Max has said there is no way he will become the prince. So person number 3 is Zan. And Zan really doesn't want to become the prince, and he's mildly homicidal sometimes. I do like the line that I wrote in Nothing Else Matters. He has a light grip on his sanity, and he does. Probably why, again, he's the most like me. But so yeah, they're definitely all going to be in there. Flicka, I don't know. She's down at the point where I'm writing now. She's in Phoenix. She's married. I'm not sure how that's going to work back in, but maybe it will, because it's going to be a couple of months. That would be interesting. But Wolf will make an appearance, or at least a phone call probably at some point. Zan and Georgie are going to be all over it, especially the later 2 books. And okay, so those are the ones she asked about. Good. Amy Jarvis said, did you just say you have a PhD? Yep. My PhD is in microbiology and virology. That's why in the newsletters at the beginning of this pandemic, I gave virology related advice. I'm a writer, so I think about worst case scenarios, but I'm also a microbiologist. I worked on herpes viruses, so my aseptic technique is awesome. And yes, I washed my hands before I went to the bathroom. I worked on herpes viruses. I worked on HIV. When I did my postdoctoral research in neuroscience, I worked on Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, and that's it for the most part. I worked on amyloid. If you want to get me off on a ramble at some point, you can ask me about what causes Alzheimer's disease, because I have opinions. I have a PhD, and so I did my postdoctoral research. While I was doing my postdoctoral research, I got pregnant with my son, and so my husband was already commuting. We lived in the Northeast. We lived in New Jersey. I was commuting into Philadelphia from Princeton. He was commuting up to Pearl River, New York, and it was too much. I could just tell it was too much. So then I had my kid. He was born. I stayed home with him for a year or 2, and by the time he was 2, I could tell that he was going to need some extra help. So one of the reasons that I went back to writing, I also have an MFA in creative writing from Iowa, so I've always been a writer too. One of the reasons I went back to being a writer was because my kid just needed more help. He needed me there. He did not need a postdoc or a professor for a mother who would be working 18 hours a day in a lab. And you do what you need to for your kids. So, and I've had, talk about tremendous guilt the last 3 months, especially. Why aren't I in the lab solving this? And it's been 15 years since I've been in the lab, so I can't walk right back in at this point. Um, Although I thought about it, I thought about calling up. I live near many universities, and I thought about calling up universities and saying, "Hey, I'm a PhD. I have a postdoc. I would be willing to come into your lab and do whatever you need for free. I can do grunt work. I can mentor graduate students. I can run entire projects. What do you need?" But my kids still needed help, and it probably wouldn't. It probably wouldn't have worked. I mean, I'm 15 years out of date on techniques, even though I still read Morbidity and Mortality Weekly Report. That's a fun magazine. Anyway, yes, I do have a PhD. Jane McCurdy, oh, you are so sweet. Jane is like a friend of mine in real life. She's like wonderful. She's the nicest person in the world, and she's like on my kids' like contact list. Like if anything ever happens to my husband and I, Jane is on my kids' contact list for like people to go to because she can help you. She is the nicest person in the world. You did an awesome job. Thank you, Jane. I love you. Okay. Yes, PhD. There's Mika's part. Yes, I am. Kay Davis says, "Will the Quickies books ever be published?" Something to do with an infection. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, probably 3 or 4 months. I will put it out as ebook form, as I said, newsletter and group, so you'll be able to get it as an ebook in 3 or 4 months. Ira says, "Any more funny, smelly creatures like dragons?" Maybe, like I said, if I can get to the point where I can write 10 books a year, I can like take 2 or 3 books and just write fun stuff. And I want to. Okay. Giselle Colette Pozark says, "When you start a series, do you know the end or does the story just develop?" Usually, I mean, it's a romance novel. Within the genre, there is a constrainment. There is a happily ever after. So, yeah. But do I know how it's going to end? I have ideas. I have extensive outlines for every book. For every book in the Zan series, Lizzie series, Zan series, Flicka series, and now this, I have probably at least 30 pages of outlines for each book. And then like the overall series, there's like another 30 pages of overarching outline for the overall way that the book goes. And I work on the detailed outlines before I start each book, and I have an idea for it goes over. Here's something though, I'm not sure how Maxence is going to end. I mean, I know he and whichever female he does manage to end up with, because you haven't read Rogue yet, are going to end up together because it's an HEA, because it's a romance, right? So they have to, right? Other timelines or other plot lines within the series? Not quite sure how it's going to end up. I keep looking at Harry and Meghan going, she rescued him. That's an interesting thing. And for my larger Billionaires in Disguise series, if Maxence walks away, because I mean, we know from the Flicka series, Pierre is dead, Maxence is the next in line. If Maxence walks away, Zan is next. Zan might actually kill people, like go postal in a like room rather than take the throne. So he's probably not going to be talked into it. After that is Christine. Not sure what Christine's feelings are, but they're probably not good. Number 5 after that is his Uncle Jules, who, if you think Pierre is bad, wait till you meet Uncle Jules. And then after that is Therese, his daughter, who is the one who betrayed Flicka to Pierre. So she's number 6. Number 7, if I remember right, is the way I've got it structured, is Albert, the current Prince Albert. I gave him like older siblings. So if I did that, I could actually reintegrate it into the current timeline, and that might be interesting too. Or I could mess with it more and have other people. So it's an interesting thought about how I'm going to end Maxence. Is he going to end up the prince, or am I going to really screw with Zan Valentine some more? Because he's always fun when you screw with him. I'm not sure. But Christine's a possibility. Even though I think she has thoughts about it. So I'm not sure how this is going to end yet. So, Amy Jarvis says, any chance of a La Rosie book? That's interesting. So kind of like a flashback book when they were all at La Rosie? That might be interesting for like fan stuff. Like, I mean, people go, okay, so other writers call it fan service. I think fan is a weird word. I like readers. So reader service. That might be interesting to write a short story about. Like, if I wrote a short story about, like, all of them as teenagers at La Rosie, see, because it couldn't have sex in it, because, no. But that would be interesting to write and just give away to, like, the mailing list. I see, again, another reason why I want to get my word counts up and keep the same quality. That's not negotiable for me, because that's what I find most interesting. Is so I can do things like that. So I can write stuff that's like just for the mailing list. Short stories just for the mailing list. Short stories just for anthologies. Because being able to produce like that is fun. So it's possible. Susan Buttons. Hi Susan. Okay. So I am okay. Oh, Amy Jarvis then says, but Arthur is said to be able to topple and change monarchies, so why not lose the title? So interesting. As always, in all of the, in the Casimir book, in the Arthur books, the other two guys come in and help. So there's always that. At some point, about the 3/4 mark, the Deus Ex Machina, which is the other two guys, will come back and help. So Arthur can do that in England, it must be noted, because he and his family are so connected. I'm not sure how well he'd do in Monaco, other than just like he knows people who kill people. Okay. Amy Jarvis then says the kids that are currently about 2 referenced age 5 at La Rosie flashback to when mom and dad. Oh, that'd be fun. Yeah, see, that'd be fun. That'd be awesome. Okay. I'm going to double check on my phone and see if there's any other questions on the ABA thread. Okay. So here's the official Ask Me Anything thread. Okay. So let me see. Okay, nope. The last one there is, can we get a timeline of days of order of major events? So one thing which I should say about timeline and order of major events. Oh, there's member requests, so I'm going to approve them real quick. I'm just going to approve everybody, approving, because I send out a note to the email. So, okay. So, folks who I just approved, sorry I didn't get to you earlier, but I was busy talking in here. But hey, I'm still alive, so you didn't miss me. You can put a question either on this, right here, this post where I'm talking, because I'm looking here, although I have to like look and squint because I'm really nearsighted, like worse than 2200. Like I can't see the E. Or you can put it on, it'll probably be backwards to you, but the Ask Blair, oh, I guess it's not. Ask Blair Anything thread. So if you look for that in the group, you can put it either on there or you can put it a question on here and I can answer it. I've got a few more minutes left. There's some also, yeah, I've got about 15 minutes left. There's also a video in the group, which you may want to take a look at, and because I made a video of like my travel photos to Monaco, and it was really cool, and I fangirled my own self, which is kind of odd, but it was fun. Okay, so if there are any more questions, as far as the timeline is concerned, just a quick note. One Night in Monaco, if you read it, it takes place the same day that Max gets back from Geneva when he talked to Flicka. So the timeline is he goes to Geneva, talks to Flicka, figures out what's going on, comes back to Monaco, punches Pierre, and then like is so distraught that he goes to the casino, and there he meets Simone, and then he disappears, and then that evening, late at night, Kaz and Arthur are called. He's missing. Where is he? Okay. Kay Camella asks, when you traveled to Monaco, what memory has stayed with you? Walking around the country where my characters live and breathe was amazing. It was seeing Zan's house and figuring out, it's like, that's the house that I saw from the satellites, that's the house I saw from 20 different angles as I figured out where it was and the floor plan and everything about it. That was really interesting. Seeing the palace itself and all the pictures of Grace Kelly was amazing. Going out the back of the castle and walking the route from the castle to the church was really interesting. If this pandemic is ever over, I don't know, man, maybe I'll take a group of readers. Maybe we can do a reader trip and we can go to Monaco and we'll do like a day walk through Monaco and just retrace the steps. Because while I was doing it, I was like, this would be even more fun with readers. I mean, it was fun with my husband and kid, but I don't know why. So, but if we are ever allowed out of our houses again, which my husband does work for a major pharmaceutical company, and early on, like in March and the first part of April, I was sitting in with him in meetings, and I have to be careful what I say because there are FCC, no, the one where the stock exchange one. There's FDA rules and there's rules that, like, if you insider trading rules, so I have to be careful what I say right now. But I sat in with him in meetings, high-level meetings at the pharmaceutical company where he is, because they were all over Zoom, because everybody was, especially up here in the Northeast, we were at ground zero of the outbreak. And indeed, I was like, at the first week of it, March 12th through March 18th, 16th, I was like all over my kids' school, emailing everybody I could find, going, you have to close the school now, you have to close the school now. So I was sitting with him and whispering in his ear things about virology, like this particular drug from this other company, don't go with that one because it's a DNA analog and coronaviruses are an RNA-based virus, and the data they're showing you is based on HIV, which is sort of an RNA virus, but it has a DNA intermediate, so that's why it works. Coronaviruses do not have a DNA intermediate, so that drug is not going to work on this virus, and you should not develop that one. You should try this one over here. So, things like that. So, from everything that is published, that has been published in journals and in mainstream media, I am exceedingly hopeful about these vaccines. The mRNA vaccine that is from American pharmaceutical companies, and the vaccine that is coming from Oxford that's based on a simian adenovirus, those are amazing research. Those are incredible science. And I will be first in line. I actually am first in line. I am signed up to be in phase 3s for Pfizer because my husband works for Pfizer. And I will definitely be taking the vaccine as soon as it is available. I will do phase 3s because this science is amazing. And I think, first of all, there's not going to be any adjuvants in either one. In the mRNA ones, there will be no adjuvants in the vaccine. So a lot of people's worries about vaccines deal with the adjuvants, which are the chemicals that increase the immune response. Believe that it may be associated with autoimmune diseases. It's possible. It's more like if you already have an autoimmune disease, then it might increase a flare. But the mRNA vaccine will not have those. And I believe this thing could be over. We should have vaccines available first of the year. Healthcare workers should get them first. And by next summer, this could be a much different situation. So, heck, maybe we'll go to Monaco in 2022. Okay, some people have been asking things, so I am now going to, People are into a trip to Monaco. Okay. Elaine Haas, she says that she's glad I'm not in the lab, that my books have made self-isolation tolerable. Thank you. Thank you. I am really actually trying to help. That warms my heart. Okay, people want to go to Monaco. Yes, we should totally go to Monaco. That would be awesome. How many books will be in Max's story? Theoretically, there were going to be 3. I think there's going to be 4 because I'm through with the second book, and I don't think there's any way I can put everything else in just one more book. I think if I did, it would be a 150,000 word behemoth and be this thick and be unpublishable. So I think we're gonna have to do 2 more decent sized, normal sized novels. So I think it's gonna be 4. Love all 3. And Giselle Colette Pozark says, I love all 3 Runaway Billionaires after Maxence. How about having all 3 of them together to solve some issue and save the world? Oh, that's interesting. That again would be a lovely story that if I can just get my writing speed up enough, I would love to write that for like reader service, for like the mailing list, because it'd be fun. Okay. Lois Maisel Cooperstein says, what about the ones from Israel? Yes. What about that? Maybe. That guy was in Rogue Security and he was really interesting and maybe. Amelia T. Smith says, we've got opposite directions geographically. Yeah, I've been swimming upstream. I worked in a medical school in Philadelphia, and now you live in Arizona. And, oh, thank you. I really appreciate that. Yep. Everybody I know moves from the cold to the warm, and I'm just weird. I don't know why I did this. I don't like snow. Let me see. Leslie Gray says, how do we sign up for stage 3 trials? Clinicaltrials.gov, G-O-V. There are clinical trials which are in process of enrolling. And so that is how you sign up for any clinical trial. You go there and you can look for COVID if you have cancer or something else and you're looking for a clinical trial. Clinicaltrials.gov, G-O-V. And that's where you find all the clinical trials that are registered to be done through the FDA in the U.S. If you're someplace else, then I would go with your National Health Service. If you're in the UK, I would say the NHS should have something similar. Jane wants to go to Monaco. Dude, we should do this. We should totally do this. Okay. And they signed up for phase 3 too. Jane's husband also used to work in pharmaceutical. Well, Jane herself is a pharmacist, and her husband was a pharmaceutical scientist. And so, yep, I'll bet she is. Are books on Max, will they be longer? Iris Simpson asked if the books can be longer. Yeah. Monaco, One Night in Monaco was 43,000 words, just to give you an idea. And writers talk in 1,000 words instead of pages because page size varies. Rogue, I think, is 75. Order is going to be 80. So it's going to be about twice as long as One Night in Monaco. And then the last 2, which are going to be Prince and Royal, they will probably be about the same. That seems to be about my length. And I know other writers tell me I need to write shorter, and I just can't. That's my length. And Leslie Gray says, thank you, you're welcome. So, okay, I'm going to go back and check over on the other one now. And see if anybody has asked a question, and if not, then we are actually nearing the end, because I said 2 hours, and it has been almost 2 hours. So, has anyone picked up? Nope, nobody's asked anything on that. Okay, if there's any more questions on this, any more questions? Susan Button asks, are they going to be in audio too? Yes. That's why I'm releasing them a little bit more slowly, is to give the narrators time to talk. Shane East and Lucy Rivers are doing the Maxence books, and I am very, very happy to get Shane East. He's awesome, and I like his voice. So, yes, they will be out in audio at the same time. They will be released at the same time as each of the ebooks. Okay. Kathy Gunn McClaskey says, like their wives together, need more of them in their interactions. I think so too. Okay. Lois Cooperstein says, thank you, and you're welcome. Amy Jarvis, do you have plans after Max? Same world? Something? I mean, all my books tend to cross together, and I don't want to make any commitments and for a while because I want to get this out and then see what comes up. Possibly the most eligible lords list. Those might be smaller. Might write those interspersed with something longer. So maybe we'll have to see. Wives on their own adventure. Oh God, Kaz and Rocks together. That'd be awesome. That would be fun. Again, that would be something really fun to do. And everybody's so sweet. Thank you, Susan. Thank you, Iris Simpson. Amy Jarvis says, or new stories / story world. I really like writing in the Billionaires. I mean, the most eligible lords is adjacent. I mean, there'd probably be little crossovers just because Arthur's in there somewhere. But possibly. So there's also the other ones which I was beginning to seed into Monaco. Yeah, it was in Monaco because it was Arthur who went to the yacht club. I'm making sure that I'm not saying something that's in Rogue. So yeah, when Arthur went into the yacht club and he met a guy who was working on the computer, that's another possible idea for another series. I was thinking like that's not what I would call it, but like the scholarship kids. And because La Rosie has scholarship kids, so kids who were not born wealthy, but who went to La Rosie on scholarship, made connections, and are more self-made millionaires and billionaires. So he was one of them. So I started seeding him in there. There's another one at the end of Rogue, and he's pretty. And so that's the other track that so Rogue Security, most eligible lords, and the scholarship kids. Those are the three that I'm musing about the most. Susan Button wants more Wolf. Wouldn't we all? Yes, we all. We all love Wolf. So yeah, I can figure out how to write more Wolf. We should write more Wolf. The world always needs more Wolf, right? And Iris says, what's up with Wolf? Indeed. Wolf. Who doesn't love the Wolf? I mean, he remembers everything you say, and he actually can stay up at night and take care of the kids. He's awesome. Okay, so, oops, it is almost 2 o'clock. Any last questions? If you have last questions, please put them on the video so that I can see them. Well, if nobody's going to ask any more ideas, I could grab my computer and read you just a little bit of Rogue. Would you like that? I don't see any comments that like it. Would you like that? To hear the first chapter of Rogue? I'm just going to pretend that you do. Hang on, let me get my computer. So you guys are right now on a Mac. This is my Apple, or I'm sorry, this is my my LG Gram. If you want to know the things that I write on. I used to write on a Mac because I used to write on Scrivener. Because Scrivener is a really, really good program if you're a writer. Unfortunately, in my opinion, Scrivener 3, they broke it, and for 2 months I couldn't actually publish because they messed it up so much, and I don't understand it. But I have really good ergonomic keyboards for the Mac. So see, it's at an angle and stuff. So I have those underneath. But now I work on an LG Gram because I work on an IBM based, and I write in Word. So, and I do have nifty ergonomic keyboards for that. They're sitting over there. They're in a box. And I haven't had time to take them out and put together the thing and put together everything to get them out. But I'm going to be more ergonomic soon. So hang on just a second. Oop, I've got Order open, but not Rogue. Okay, let's open Rogue. There it is. Okay, just a minute. It takes a minute to open because the file is 75,000 words long. Okay. So, okay. So the first part, okay. Oh, yeah. Okay, so sorry, I have to remember where you guys are versus where I am. You guys just got One Night in Monaco, so the next thing you will get is Rogue. So I have to, but I'm already at the end of book number 2, so I have to like go, now is this the right book? Is this, haven't they already had this? No, you haven't had this. Okay, so the first chapter is entitled Bad Decision. And it is from Dree's point of view. Dree, the girl who is at the end. So, oh, by the way, spoilers, if you don't want to know what happens in One Night in Monaco, stop listening here. This video will be available on Facebook for, I don't know, for forever. But it will be available on Facebook. So if you haven't finished reading One Night in Monaco, go away right now because spoilers. But this video will be here later. Okay. So, the character is from the character's point of view of Dree, Andrea Catherine, who is the character seen talking to Jen and Rox at the end of One Night in Monaco. Dree raised her shot glass high above her head to toast the gilded Buddha towering over the nightclub. She shoved all the air from her lungs through her throat, and she screamed with her whole body at people yammering over the techno music and each other. I'm gonna fuck every man in this bar tonight. The crowd roared its approval amid laughter and raised cocktail glasses that glinted in the dark nightclub's spinning lights. Their faces and gaping open mouths swam through the air as Dree bobbled where she was standing on top of a chair. Dree tossed the remaining tequila into her mouth to seal the deal, and the liquor sent acrid fumes up her nose to mix with the aromas of roasting meat, sizzling ginger, beer, wine, cocktails, and people becoming sweaty from dancing in an overheated nightclub. She swallowed the tequila hard because her stomach was already raw from 3 earlier shots of tequila, plus even more cocktails. Dree raised both her arms and screamed, "Woo!" thus becoming a woo girl for the first time since college. Dozens of men and women wooed back at her, and she waved her arms and wooed some more. It felt great. Yeah, she was a frickin' woo girl tonight. God damn it, she totally was. She had, literally, nothing left to lose. 2 waitstaff came over and scolded her in French too rapid for Dree to comprehend, both because she was drunk and because college French had been a few years before. They were definitely wagging their fingers at her and pointing at the floor, though. The seat of the bar chair she was standing on slid sideways under her feet, tilting her. She caught the back of the seat right before she fell off. One of the servers grabbed Dree's hand as she stumbled, and she allowed herself to be helped down from her perch. The seat jittered and swiveled as she held onto the back and found the floor with her toes, trying not to drop the shot glass she held in her left hand. The last thing she needed was to add broken glass to the mix. As she held onto the bar stool and eased herself down to standing on the wobbling floor, she thanked the waiters, who sighed visibly at her, but walked away, letting her stay in the club. Good. The point of the evening was not to get thrown out of the Buddha bar in Paris. The point of the evening was, well, she just proclaimed it to the room. Dree plunked her butt back on the bar chair and glanced around. Lights spinning in the time with the techno dance music dazzled her eyes. The crowd had already forgotten about Dree's statement of purpose and had gone back to yammering and yelling over the music and to each other as they tried to talk their way into each other's pants. The petite woman who had helped Dree stand up on the bar stool seconds before rolled her eyes. Déchiré. When your nickname is Dree and you take college French, you learn real quick that déchiré means plastered drunk. Yeah, she was wasted, and she just announced her sordid intentions to the whole bar. And why not? Because, quite literally, Dree had nothing left in the world to lose. Dree shook the last few drops of tequila from the shot glass into her mouth and set it on a cocktail napkin that was covered with black feminine writing. Only some of it her own. Right away, she realized her mistake and moved the shot glass back to the wooden presentation tray, and she shook out the napkin and blew on it, drawing the one dot of liquid that had blurring a line that had formed the bottom of the P in Nepal. Ruining that napkin would be a disaster. Dree folded it carefully and tucked it into her tiny clutch purse because it was her bucket list, her guiding light for the rest of her life, that she had screwed up so badly because she had trusted the wrong guy. The so wrong guy. The wrongiest of all the wronginator guys. She was so screwed. But tonight, she was having one last drink in the Buddha bar in Paris, and then she was gonna fuck all the guys in the nightclub. Or at least a fair number of them. It said right there on the napkin, that was now safely in her purse, that she needed to have a one-night stand with a beautiful man whom she'd never see again. Or to have a threesome, or to have a foursome with 3 guys, or a gangbang. All of those debaucheries were listed right there on the napkin. So she pretty much had to do them, right? Yes. Yes, she did. Maybe she should write a book about that someday. The guidance of the napkin. It could be how people could change their lives by meeting random people in bars and following their drunken advice written on a napkin instead of following what they were supposed to do. Doing what you were supposed to do in life led to pathetic betrayals from people who were supposed to love you and complete destitution. So that couldn't be right. Dree was living proof of that. She had lost everything she'd owned. Absolutely everything. Because she had loved and trusted the wrong guy. Because Dree had no frickin' judgment when it came to people. So, she needed to stop being such an idiot and screwing up her life. Following the list on the napkin seemed like a great idea. Lots of ideas sounded great to Dree when she was Desiree, drunk off her ass. But she was going to do at least some of those things on the napkin tonight. Rivulets of men trickled through the thick crowd, edging toward her. Well, that's what she damn well wanted, wasn't it? Men. Many men. All the many, many, many men. And yet, Dree glanced down the bar in the direction of the enormous Buddha statue that loomed over the partying crowd, and saw the man who was leaning against the bar 2 seats away from her. The woman who had pronounced Dree Desiree drunk, and the other guy separated her from Dree. Him from Dree. That gorgeous man, whom Dree had noticed a few minutes earlier, looked up at her, as if he felt her eyes on him. He hadn't yelled with the rest of the guys when she'd announced her challenge. Even now, his expression wasn't precisely startled, but a tight wariness had entered his dark eyes and his athletic stance as he leaned on the bar, holding an amber drink with ice in a highball glass. When the man had arrived a few minutes earlier, Dree had noticed him as soon as he touched the bar, a few people away from where she'd been sitting. She was pretty sure half the people in the Buddha bar had watched him cross the room and order a drink. Before that, they broke his spell and went back to their own, now troubled conversations, but they were still sneaking glances at him. The tall man had smiled easily when he'd ordered a drink, his gaze serene while he surveyed the crowd. He was really tall, too. His head stuck up above everyone else's like they were a black and blonde ocean, and he was swimming with his head held high out of the waves, lest he soak his dark, curling hair that swayed over his forehead and neck. He looked like he was a white guy with a tan, or he might be olive-skinned, like from somewhere near the Mediterranean Sea. Something about him made her feel like a fish drawn to an irresistible lure. When he twisted, turning toward Dree, his white t-shirt pulled taut over his broad, muscular chest and shoulders. The pristine cotton clung to the rounds of his massive pectorals, the ripples of his abdominal muscles, and his obliques that cut diagonal slices from his ribs to the waistband of his trousers. Somebody worked out. Dree had to respect the time in the gym, even though she did not go to the gym nearly as much as he obviously did. Or ever really. The hospital where she worked had a gym. She'd been meaning to start going there for 3 years. The man's dark dress pants contrasted oddly with his plain white tee, which looked like it might be an undershirt. If it had clung to his skin any more tightly, she would have thought he'd just won a wet t-shirt contest. She could see every one of his 8-pack of abdominal muscles, even those top ones nestled under his pecs. Just wow. When Dree leaned back to observe the guy's backside, his legs were long and thick with muscle. Between his incongruous clothes, tousled black curls, and sleepy blinks, the guy looked like he'd left his suit jacket, shirt, and tie on someone's bedroom floor and sauntered to the bar for a drink. That man could throw his clothes on Desiree Dre's floor anytime. She was so drunk. This was not like her. But tonight, anything seemed possible. Everything seemed possible. She wanted to touch him. The tequila shots she'd sucked down made her body feel languorous and heavy, and she wanted a tall, strong, sexy man to touch her, drive her backward with the warmth of his male body, and move above her and inside her with slow, sinuous thrusts, his faint, masculine musk surrounding her and driving her out of her mind. The deliberate way the man lifted his drink to his mouth, when he touched the highball glass to his full lower lip before he tilted it. The liquid flowed in, and he swallowed. Made Dree think he'd be incredible in bed, that he'd take his time, that he'd know what he was doing to her. The inside of her mouth watered like she wanted to lick him. And he was still staring back at her, his eyes serious, almost wary. He took the glass away from his mouth like he was stripping off his shirt for her to see his naked flesh. Dree was leaning so far toward him she nearly fell off the chair. A new guy inserted himself into her view, jamming himself into the narrow space between Dree and the petite, judgy woman sitting next to her. Dree looked up. The new guy's red silk shirt was unbuttoned to his waist, exposing a thatch of black chest hair. Bonsoir. Yeah. Hi, Dree said. You called for volunteers? The guy asked with a strong French accent. About that, Dree said, leaning back in her seat in retreat and gripping her empty shot glass. She should not have stood on her bar stool and announced that. The napkin said to do something she might regret later, but she regretted yelling that right now. Another guy moved up to stand beside the first. I heard you say you were going to fuck every guy in the bar. She examined the shot glass in front of her instead of meeting his eyes. I sure did say that. So you didn't mean it when you announced that you wanted to fuck every guy in the bar? Maybe announcing it was a bad decision, she admitted. 2 more guys crowded around her chair. Hello, my sweet. Is this party full or am I just in time? Another guy with a New York accent said, I'm not taking sloppy seconds. I want to fuck her mouth and I want to do it first. Whoa, Dree said, leaning back, her feet scrambling for the footrest bar to shove herself backwards in her chair. Slow down, dudes! More men stepped up, forming a knot around where she sat, boxing her in. A gravelly voice asked, Is this where I redeem my 1 free fuck coupon? Another said, She's fatter than she looked. Hey, Dree said, getting pissed. Another man reached for her as he said, I want to fuck her tits. I get off on tits. You want to be un chou à la crème? He was asking her if she wanted to be a cream pie. She slapped his encroaching hand. Ew! You didn't seem so finicky before, an American guy said. Sounded like you wanted to be the slimy center of a circle jerk. Yuck! Jeez, you guys, back off! You said you wanted all the men, another guy said in halting English. The group tightened around her. Their heat reached her, making the air damp with their sweat. Tremors filled her arms. A strong hand grabbed her boob. Nice tits. She shoved the man's arm, knocking him back, but more hands were reaching for her. She clutched her little purse to her chest like this tiny scrap of pink leather could shield her. Stop it! Are we going to do this out here or outside in the alley? One of them asked. Another hand dove between Dree's thighs, and she clamped her legs together and punched at the arm, and the face connected to it. The shaking in her arms racked her whole body. There were too many of them. Too many hands, and all were too big and too strong. Leave me alone, she begged them. More hands, more leering faces, more hands and more bodies coming at her and trapping her. Stop! Jesus Christ, just leave me alone! Movement from behind the guys. Rumbling. A few of the guys swiveled left as something drew their attention, and their eyes widened. Long, large, strong hands appeared over the wall of her attackers and grasped their shoulders. Their attached bodies flailed and flopped aside. The cluster of men fragmented like a rotting seawall broken apart by a rogue wave. Men's voices yelled as the barrier they'd made of themselves were ripped apart. A tower of white cotton and muscled flesh breached the ring of guys and rose up in front of her. Scents of mild soap and a fresh masculine aftershave emanated from the white t-shirt and the mountain of man standing there and facing away from her. One of his arms reached back to shield her, and the other shoved outwards, pushing the guy's shoulders and forcing them to stumble backwards. The man's deep voice said in British accented English, "Back away." The lady said she wanted to be left alone. So, that's the first chapter of Rogue. So, that's already written. That is written and with the narrators, and the narrators are almost done. The narrators will be done soon, and then it is in pre-orders right now, and you can totally pre-order it. It's all up on all the vendors: Amazon, Apple Books, Barnes and Noble, Nook, Kobo, and Google Play. And so you can pre-order that and find out exactly what happens with Max or whomever she meets. So, okay. So, and we are now, oh, wow, I read for a while. So you guys are so cute. Okay. So anyway, that's the first chapter of Rogue, and I've had that scene in my head for years. So I am so excited, and I'm excited you guys will get it relatively soon, and I'm glad that you liked One Night in Monaco. And thank you so much for being here today. I really appreciate you coming, and I'm glad to see you guys. And make sure you open my newsletters and read them, because there are always important things in there. So make sure you're on my mailing list. And I do try to cross everything into the group, but sometimes things get lost. And so make sure that you are reading my newsletters. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. And y'all have a great weekend. Bye-bye.